Hello, 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 hello. Oh, I love this filter. This is an amazing filter. All right, so I am waiting for my special guest to join so she can join me live. We are going to have is it Wednesday Warrior or is it Warrior Wednesday? We gotta finish renaming this. Put that in my notes. Warrior Wednesday recovery chat. I can only put so much in the title, but basically what it is that we are talking. I will have a guest today, letting her share her recovery story, and this will be the first of hopefully many to come. I am in the process of getting a podcast up and running, so this is me just I'm testing out different ways of starting this journey. So this is not an official podcast, but it's the baby steps towards it. So it's kind of like a trial run. So I'm waiting for my I don't like the way they do comments on. I'm used to going live on TikTok, so I've only been live on Instagram a few times. So I got to get used to the way these comments come in, and I don't know if I could turn them off because this is really just going to be a one-on-one chat with. There she is. Okay. Let's see. Oh, come on, go down, go down, go down, go down. No, 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 no. All right, what's happening? Let's see if that works. I'm trying. Okay, that wasn't too difficult at all. I chose a filter. It looks like I went to the beach today. I just got off work a little bit ago, and I am just I returned to work today after a little 4-day weekend, and it was just draining. Just I work in mental health, and so it was just draining, and I was like, I don't feel like putting myself together, so I'm going to choose a filter.
I get that.
How are you doing? So this is Samantha. How are you?
I'm well. I'm doing pretty good. I had my first day off in like 2 weeks today, so that was nice to get to sleep in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so last night at about 7, I was like, well, I haven't heard from her yet. So I'm exhausted. And I was like, is she waiting for me? But then I read our last message and I'm like, I'm just after the shower and after being out in the sun. I did go to the beach
Yep.
yesterday, but I was like, I'm just going to cancel because since we have, anyway.
It
But I
worked.
was relieved to get your message.
Right. It worked out. I knocked out early last night. It was good. I needed that sleep though, so.
Well, good for you because I know you've been really busy. So I'm loving this setup. I'm loving the way this sounds. This sounds really good. Let me, I wonder if there's I don't want to be distracted. I don't know if you can turn off comments. I don't know that we're going to have any comments. Do you know right off?
I have no idea. I've never really done an Instagram live, so I don't know, but I'm
I've
just
only done 2 and
trying to just
it's
look at you.
okay. Let me see. Let me see if there's a way. Because even the 2 times that I did it, I got a bunch of random, ridiculous comments, and I don't want to be distracted. There's
Right.
gotta, there's gotta be. If you're new in here, do you know how to turn off comments? Let me just play around with these little buttons. Some cameras on. Add a person. Question. No, that's not it. That's kind of ridiculous. Oh, let me see what this is. Hello, hello, hello. So if you are just joining us, do you know if I can turn off comments? Because I really just want to focus on my guest, and all I'm seeing is a bunch of notifications over her face. Does anybody know? Which means I will be distracted. Does anybody know if you could turn off comments? On TikTok, you can just
Wipe over.
swipe the screen over. It's not working.
Mhm.
Let me see what. Oh, okay.
Did you?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Okay, so what you do is at the bottom there's a little C with like 3 dots, and it looks like you're going to type in a comment. Well,
Uh,
you just click on it, and it opens up the screen. And
uh,
one of the uh, options is to turn off commenting because I just wanted to be able to look at you and not, if that's okay.
yeah, no, that's
And and really this is all for recording purposes to get comfortable with this process and what we're doing. So I'm not focused on so much the audience. If people drop in here and watch, that's great.
right.
But this is to save it and then share it to
Yeah,
YouTube, and just, we can share bits and pieces to TikTok if you want. But it's really just for this purpose. But like I said, if other people watch it, great. All right. So today I just named this Warrior Wednesday recovery chat. There wasn't much space to write too much thing, but I don't know if it should have been Wednesday Warrior or Warrior Wednesday. I think I put Warrior Wednesday. Which do you like better?
I like Warrior. It's Warrior Wednesday. That looks better.
Okay, Warrior Wednesday recovery chat. I tried to put recovery chat with guests, special guests. Anyway, wouldn't let me do all of it.
Right.
So, all right. So, welcome to Warrior Wednesday recovery chat. My guest today is Samantha. We are going to just delve into Samantha's recovery journey. Apparently, nothing is off limits to what I can ask, which I'm really not going to ask anything. But the most pressing question I do want to ask is, when did you realize you had, and if any of my terminology doesn't sound good, just correct me as you want because I'm new to this, as far as this type of forum.
Right.
When did you realize you had a problem?
Hmm. Ooh, that's a good question. God.
And see, anything you say, even though I kind of put you on the spot there, that might
I
trigger
was,
someone else
right.
to like, oh my God, I'm doing that right now.
I'm pretty good at talking about like traumatic things and stuff like that without it doesn't bother me, I guess. But I started using different things very early. But I fell into an addiction with opiates I was like 18, but I had dabbled in other things prior to that in my teens and had a little bout with cocaine for a while. And then I found H and I fell in love with it. So I think 18, and then I went to jail when I was 19. So that was like that moment that I was like, oh shit, this is pretty bad. But yeah, it was early, and I didn't quite recognize it because it was still kind of like, I guess, not really. I don't know. In my area, it wasn't really known. Like we didn't really know until we were too deep. Like me and the group that I hung with and used with. So I would say probably about 18, 19 is when I realized I had a problem.
Okay, yeah. So can you tell me how long you struggled with the addiction?
Um, I had my son I got pregnant when I was 25, and I had relapsed on pain medication right before I found out that I was, not right before I found out, but right before I got pregnant, because my significant other and we had split up in 2014, and I had relapsed then, but then we got back together at the end, and I got pregnant in September, but I didn't find out until the end of October. So I had already started on Suboxone at that point. So I was 25 when I stopped completely. Like I haven't had a withdrawal, or I'm sorry, a relapse since then.
And how old are you now?
30. I'll be 32 in a few days on August 9th.
Oh, I didn't know you were Leo birthday too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
yeah. My birthday was yesterday.
yeah. You said your birthday. I was like, I'm a Leo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe because I've actually gotten that from a lot of people lately. Oh, we're a Leo club, and I was getting it at work today. I'm upon my return to work, so my apologies.
Oh no, you're
You're
fine.
right. We did have that conversation because I said that's why we clicked. That's what I knew. I met you for a reason. Yes. Okay. I didn't realize your birthday was on the 9th. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what you said? Okay. Well, all right. Super.
Yep.
So What is your favorite part of your recovery journey to talk about?
Um, I don't think I really have like a favorite part. Uh, no, I really don't. I mean, the only thing that's like really stuck out to me is that my son's been the main thing that's kept me sober. And I don't, if you don't have kids and you're looking for recovery, don't get kids. Don't go have kids. But he saved me, so I do enjoy talking about that. Um, but that's about, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about any of it, but none of it's really my favorite, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Explain
Well,
that.
if you wanted to talk about something in particular, I was just going to open that up to you, but we will visit that because
Okay.
everybody has their why, and
Right.
it sounds like your son is your why. So, going back to the beginning, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So you didn't go straight to H.
Mm-mm.
And so how old would you say you were you when you first started dabbling in drugs,
Mm,
recreational?
I was in middle school when I started smoking pot, and then I was in high school when I was introduced to cocaine. And then alcohol was a big thing for me in high school. I mean, in high school and when I got out, and I tried using alcohol to recover, to try to get off of drugs before or later on in life too, but that didn't work out too well. What was the question? I'm sorry, my AD.
Oh no, you're fine. And I'm trying to remind myself. I'm gonna kick my legs up because I'm trying to remind myself this is supposed to be real casual chat, just
Right.
like two friends shooting the you know what. So I'm trying to remind myself to get out of that interview mode. Yeah. So you initially started in middle school and high school like the rest of us did. Okay,
Right.
let's just be honest. I mean, you said that, but I'm being honest now. So yeah, I probably drank my first sip of alcohol in, well, I was 15. Okay, so I guess I was in high school. But yeah,
Give me 1 second. You leaving? Okay. Careful. Let me know when you get there. Okay. Sorry. He
you're
was
fine. So yeah, it's all totally casual. So so going to, okay, this is a good question. So going to jail didn't straighten you out.
I went to
You
jail twice.
okay? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
But the first time I went to jail, I was 19. I was dating a guy at the time, and he was actually the one that introduced me to intravenous use. And I went to him and wanted to start using that way because this wasn't working as good. And we were in his car. We had just gotten back from copping, or getting our drugs, and my brother was actually supposed to, because that's the other thing. My brother and I used together, so that made it even more difficult in trying to get clean and stay clean when one of us wasn't ready and the other one, and we lived together. It was just a mess. But anyway, somebody had called the cops and said that we were just sitting in his car smoking marijuana. So when they showed up, he'd already had encounters with these police officers before, so they knew what they were getting themselves into. And when they had the lights shined on the car, we couldn't really see who it was. We had no idea it was the cops at first. And he opened his door, and he had like a knife or something in the door jam or in the door pocket, and they were like, "That's grounds. Come on, get out." And then as soon as they pulled him out, they were already on the side grabbing me out. And they found, thankfully, they didn't find any drugs. We'd used them all, but they found needles and spoons, like a lot, and a baggie had fallen out of my pocket. So they brought the canine out, searched the car, found all this stuff, and they were like, "Let's go. We're taking you to jail." So that was my first encounter. I wasn't sick in jail, so I got lucky in that sense. Had already used prior, so I wasn't withdrawing in jail cell. But the cops tried to talk to me on the way. This isn't what you want. This isn't. You're young. You're pretty. What are you doing? And it was like, I got this. Um,
And you remember that conversation?
mm-hmm,
So you weren't like too high?
not
That's
at that.
interesting.
Yeah, not at that. I don't think it had hit me as hard. Like, it was kind of like just fresh. Like, we literally had just used before they pulled up. So my adrenaline was going and it hadn't settled down on the ride over to the jail. But when I got in the jail, I was knocked out in the cell after that. But I think it was the adrenaline of just the whole encounter that had kept me kind of like alert in a sense. But they knew, they weren't, stupid.
So what is that like? Do they drug test you or anything when you go to jail? Okay, and you probably weren't there very long, were you?
I was there overnight, a few hours, or yeah, I think it was like maybe 8 o'clock. It was in the wintertime, so it was dark, but I know I was out the next morning by like 2:30, 3 o'clock, but I waited around the jail for them to release him because I didn't want to call my dad to come pick me up. So he actually didn't know, that I went to jail at the time. He found out when he searched me on Case Search and found my record, and I had come to him later, like a few months later. I'd already gone to court and everything, and I was like, I need your help paying my court fees. Like, I can't pay them. I was still using. I was like, if I don't pay him, I don't know what's gonna happen. And I told him, and he was like, I already knew. I knew. I looked you up online. I knew. I was like, shit, sorry.
Wow. Wow, he never told you. I'm always fascinated to learn about the jail encounters because I never did that. I never got arrested or anything like that. The fear of going to jail, I just didn't think I would survive in jail, much less prison. But and honestly, I don't know how I didn't end up in jail. Just being
Right.
honest with you.
Some of us get lucky. Some of us do, and I thought I was going to be one of them ones that got lucky, but
And yeah, I can imagine that. So what happened number two, the second time?
number two, we were sick. I was with a friend of mine, and he decided to take me to Kohl's and steal. And they caught him stealing. He'd actually gone there earlier in the day, and then he came and picked me up. And they caught him stealing as he was leaving. And when they asked him to come in the store, he jumped in his car with me in the car and took off. The cops chased us down and pulled us over and found needles in the car. And because they were within my reach, they were behind my seat. They charged me with them. And the friend at the time, he tried to take the full blame of it, but nope. So I went to jail for the night. My dad picked me up the next morning. I did call him and tell him at that time because I was trying to get clean. I was trying to stay clean, and I had just met my significant other that I'm still with now, and things were really rocky with us in the beginning. But yep. So that night I was not feeling very good in jail. That night sucked pretty bad.
Did you get clean right after that?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you did. So tell me about that. I want to know all about how, like, what the moment you decided to, what made you get clean exactly,
So I
and
had
how you did it.
gotten clean prior to that. After I broke up with the boyfriend that got me started in intravenous use, I started dating another guy, and I moved in with him, and I got clean while I was there. That's when I tried using alcohol to get clean. And I did get off of the hardcore stuff, but I ended up relapsing right back on pills not long after that. And I had a friend that was getting them, and we went through some shit then. But when my boyfriend at the time, he had actually gotten a DUI and he had to quit drinking, and we started falling out with each other, and we broke up, and and that's when I met my significant other now, which, thinking back on it, I should have waited because I was just fresh in recovery, fresh out of a relationship, and probably shouldn't have been focusing on another one. But I mean, he kind of made me want to stay clean because he had a daughter that was 1.5, and we were infatuated with each other. So I have to say, I guess I kind of tried to get clean for him, which through the years that we were together, it didn't work out. There were times that I relapsed on pain medication. I started drinking heavily again, and we broke up. We got back together. We broke up. We got like all kinds of shit in that relationship. But yeah, ultimately, my son was what saved me.
So you're still with him.
Yes. Yeah.
And so did he have any issues, any
Nope.
problems? Okay. Oh, wow. So
Nope.
that's really been helpful to you getting, sober and staying. Clean, sober. I know we had this conversation the other day, but we'll say clean. I believe that's your preferred terminology.
One.
Okay. Uh, are you sober?
Right now,
Yes.
I occasionally drink here and there, but I don't like how it makes me feel.
Okay.
I
And that wasn't your drug of choice.
my son, or it's just I don't maybe have glass of wine every now and then, but I don't drink
But
often.
you don't have a problem with it.
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you for letting me go there because I actually am the same way. I don't broadcast it in my work, what I do, my line of work, but it's only because I don't want people to think that they can do what I do.
Right,
Because there are people that, and I don't, I've been sober probably for several years now, but I'm not saying I won't drink something,
right,
but I want to always be in control of my faculties, and just the slightest sip can just, throw me off. But there are people that cross addict and they can't handle any substances
right,
whatsoever, and I don't want them to think that that's okay.
right,
But so I totally get that.
right. Absolutely, yep. So
So you've been with him. Oh, so that's really conducive to your recovery, being with someone that's not struggling as well.
I will say we struggled with that at first because he didn't quite understand addiction and recovery. But as I learned, he learned with me. So that's been immensely helpful that, he's understanding and is willing to, kind of put up with the shit that comes with a recovering addict. It's not
That's
easy.
amazing.
Hmm.
That's amazing, especially with it being someone that doesn't understand.
Right, right,
Like if he was in recovery himself and had been, struggling with addiction prior, but just to be God, I mean, I just consider anybody that puts up with an addict, and speaking from my own experience, which nobody did, but anybody, maybe they did for a little while, but anybody that puts up with it and tolerates us and stands by us, God bless them, because nobody did me. I was on my own. No, they all said, "We love you from afar. Go on." I'm just still trying to work on mending relationships, and some I've lost completely. But so that's just I. Do you think that helped you in your recovery having him?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There were times that our relationship just, addiction aside, we had our issues. So that actually kind of like pushed me into those triggers and wanting to use. And, early on in our relationship, we had a lot of trust issues, thanks to both of us not being, the best partners we could be for each other. But now, yes, absolutely. He's helped a lot. And I've also been very lucky and had the support of my dad, um, and a few close friends of mine. So that's been helpful as well. I don't know what I'd do without my dad. He's been my rock and savior. I lost my mom at 14 to cancer. She was sick my whole life. So, and she remarried, and my stepdad was an abusive dick. So I've had a traumatic childhood that my dad couldn't necessarily control while we were growing up. But I'm thankful for him. I've always been, and not a lot of people have that, but I did. So my dad and my significant other, they've been definitely one of the things, other than my son too, that's been very supportive and helpful through my recovery.
And I'm getting to that, but you just brought up some things that I want to ask you about, but if you can't talk about it, I understand. Do you see where things took a turn in your life after your mother's passing?
So my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer when I was 6, 7, I believe it was. And she was in and out of remission. She had surgeries, whatever. Like, she was completely cut open, and she had like a foot of her lower intestine removed the first surgery. So she was on some pretty intense pain medication. And at that time, 96, 97, addiction was a thing, but I don't think people realized like how addictive that medication was. She was on OxyContin, like the 80 milligrams. And I remember those being one of my favorite things to use too. But she had given my brother one just for a toothache that he had or something, not thinking anything of it. And I watched him kind of spiral with it, and then I kind of followed. Um, I tried using pills. Okay, thank you, buddy. I tried using pills because I'd seen him do it, and I had a pretty bad experience, bad reaction to it because it was too much. I got sick, but I think that I it's genetic in my family. My dad is an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, recovering. He used crack cocaine. So is my mother. My aunt was addicted to PCP. My other aunt was addicted to crack cocaine. We've alcoholism runs on both sides of my family. So I very well think that it's just in my genetics. I think that it's something that I wouldn't, even if my mom wouldn't have passed away, I still think that I would have found my way into an addiction. Um, I don't think it would have mattered really. Had
Did you go, were you living with your mom or your dad? You were living with your mom because you had the issues with the stepdad.
Mhm.
So did, so did you go live with your dad
So I lived with my,
after she passed?
I stayed at my mom's house with my stepdad for another like month and a half. Cause she died in December 8th of 2004. Right? I always get them mixed up. That's terrible. It's
That's
my,
fine. That's
um,
fine.
yeah, it was '04. So right before Christmas, and my stepdad he'd bought me like a stereo system or something, and then my grandmother gave me a phone that was my mom's cell phone back then. And I was in high school. I remember I went to school one day, and I'd always been planning on packing my stuff up and going to stay with my dad. It wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready to leave my childhood home. All her belongings were there, and I wanted to get everything. I wanted it all. It was mine. And my stepdad found out from somebody, I'm not sure who told him. I'm guessing my grandmother said something or mentioned something. And he called me when I was at school and asked me if I was planning on moving in with my dad. And I said, yep. And he said, okay, well, your brother's on his way to pick you up. You need to come get your shit and get out. And when we got there, all of our belongings were outside in the snow. And ironically, he moved my grandmother, my mom's mom, into our house with him when she got evicted from her house. She lived there for a few months, and we were able to box some things up of my mom's and get it out. And then he had reached out to me and said, you got until the end of the weekend. Your grandmother moved out. You got to come get all this shit or it's going to the dump. And he threw it.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, always planned. I tried to me and my dad were trying to get me to move in with him way before my mom had passed away, because I was not happy there and because of the situation with my stepdad. And I really believe that if my mom had gotten sick, she probably wouldn't have stayed with him as long as she had, but he provided, he took care of her medical bills, he got her health insurance, he took her to appointments. As shitty as he was to us, he was taking care of her. So, and she really couldn't fight him back. She wasn't in any state to. I mean, she was pretty bad off, but I had already started the process of wanting to move into with my dad, and then we kind of backed off when we realized, or that when we got the diagnosis that she wasn't going to make it. So it was like stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I stay here with her, or do I move with my dad? So I stayed, and yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for going into that. Can you tell me a little bit about you? You speak very highly of your dad and what a wonderful rock of support he is. Tell me about that.
He's amazing. He's so great. I love my dad. I mean, he does everything that he can for us. I chose to stay home when I had my son because honestly, I wasn't going to make enough money to put him in daycare and then still be able to survive. And he's just been great as far as helping out financially with anything that we can't afford. I mean, I still currently live with him right now, right now, but he's done a lot for me. I remember the first time I told him, well, I had horses when I was with my mom. My stepdad had brought some horses that a neighbor had given us, and I told my dad that I wanted to train to show jump, and he was actually in school to become a nurse, and he stopped going to school. He dropped out of school so that he could pay for me to go start training and taking lessons. And he put a lot on hold for me to do that. He even spent some time in Ocala, Florida, making a bunch of money at a horse show so he could come home and spend it all on a horse for me. So he's great. He does anything and everything in his power he can for me and my brother and my son.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I did not have that, so that's just so heartwarming to hear that, and I love that.
Has to do like when my mom was still alive, we would go see him every other weekend. I
Mhm.
would see him probably twice during the week because I had lessons twice a week. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that, he didn't have us from young until I was 14, and my brother was already an adult. He was 18 or 19 at the time. So he got us kind of late, like full time kind of late. So I think he's still trying to like kind of doing that dad thing that he didn't really get to do for the first part of our lives. If that makes, you know what I mean?
Whatever it is,
I
that's just amazing.
to like make up. He was always there. He was always a great dad. He doesn't need to make up for anything.
Right.
I think
Have
it's
you?
for him.
That's so amazing. I love that. And how is he with your son?
Amazing. He loves that little turd. And my son loves him too. They're great. It's wonderful. I'm couldn't be happier.
That's wonderful. Absolutely. So tell me about, do you remember the exact moment you decided to get clean and stay clean? Or almost the exact moment? Like what happened?
I think I just got fed up. I was tired. I was not healthy. I was skinny and, not eating, and I was lonely. It's lonely. It's so lonely. Like you have all these people that you're surrounded with, but not a single one of them gives a shit about you. They're not, I mean, if they did, they wouldn't be doing drugs with you, plain and simple. And yeah, I think it was just like, okay, I'm tired of this. Like one day I'm not going to wake up, and I wasn't ready to give that life, my life up. So I got lucky and got clean like right at the beginning ish of fentanyl coming around my area, at least. Like all of a sudden a year later, like it's everywhere and everybody's overdosing and all these people are dying, and it's like, whew, I dodged it. I mean, I dodged a bullet kind of in a sense. But yeah, I think that I can't pinpoint the exact like moment or like day, but I know kind of where I was at, like feeling wise. Like I was just tired of waking up sick every morning. I was tired of not being able to hold down a job, which then I can't hold down keeping money to support my habit. And I was not a good panhandler or money beggar. Like I hated doing that. I hated going with people to do that. So I just knew that this wasn't the life that I had envisioned when I was little. I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to work with animals, and I screwed. At that time, I felt like I didn't have anything. Like I wasn't going to make anything of myself, and I wasn't going to go anywhere in life if I didn't stop and get clean.
So what I'm hearing is you had that little bit of hope in you that you still recognize.
Hmm.
Because even when we're at our lowest and we feel hopeless, I think that for those of us that do recover, it's like there was still, even though we thought we were hopeless, we could still see something. Like you just clearly said it. You weren't what you thought you were going to be. You were still seeing
Right.
what you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So and also you said pretty much is, and what I hear everybody say is they got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the truth. Yeah. And I think too, like, when you're not high and you're withdrawing, you're kind of able to think a little clearer. At least I did. And it was like in that moment, I'm like frustrated. I'm like, I'm fucking done with this shit. I'm so done with this shit.
Mm-mm.
But then at the same time, you know that there's one thing that's going to make you feel better, and you're like, okay, just one more time. Like I think the
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing is getting past that. Um, but yeah, it was those moments when I was just like shit out of luck. And I mean, I came to that conclusion, but I still would use a little bit to try to get through my day until I found a doctor at the time. And once I found my doctor that I have now, I love them. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get to them, but they're great, and they strictly work with women. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, when I found out I was pregnant, I that's when I went to him because he's an OB, and I was on Suboxone, and I wanted to get switched over to Subutex because I know that that one was better for my baby, and I've been with him ever since. Like he stays, he'll let you stay with him after you have your child or your children or whatever. And it was nice because it was all women, so we all knew like what we were going through, dealing with being pregnant while trying to stay clean, dealing with DCFS or CPS, whatever, because we did. And we had one group a month where all of us would get together at, and it was at a hospital, and do like an NA meeting. So it was nice to talk to people, women that were going through the same thing, postpartum depression, how they're handling that in their recovery. We did a lot of resourceful stuff like learning child CPR, baby CPR. That's where I was trained and received my first set of Narcan. Um, so yeah, once I found, and that doctor holds me accountable. Let me tell you, he is not one to not like he will lay into your ass if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I needed that. I needed that. I didn't need a doctor that was. I needed the structure. Not some people don't need. They need kind of, I guess, the coddling in a sense. But I needed somebody that was like gonna crack the whip because I didn't want to lose myself and lose my baby because they would have taken him.
So that's amazing. So your doctor is the one that you're talking about? Is he the prescribing doctor?
Hmm?
That's amazing.
And he's a prescribing doctor. He works with addicts,
Mm.
that kind of stuff, but he also does the OB/GYN stuff. So I was constantly, when I was pregnant, they had me in there quite often, until I got closer to my delivery date. And then I was there every week. They do non-stress tests to make sure that the baby's doing all right, all that stuff. They really, 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 really watch and monitor their women. And he's fought for our rights as women. And as far as like once we have our children, if we are in a program, not to immediately open a CPS case. Because a lot of girls were like, it's terrifying. Like, okay, I'm going to give birth and then now I got to deal with CPS too because I'm in a program. Now, if they're not actively working a program and they're using, then yeah, but he was the advocate because they didn't have that different, that they didn't have that line. It didn't matter if you were in an active program or not. They were there. They were sending CPS to your house.
Oh.
So he was the one that got it to where, okay, if you're in an active program and you have a doctor that's vouching for you, we don't need CPS to get involved unless, you know, it was mandatory for them to test our placentas to make sure that there were no drugs present during the entire pregnancy. And that's what they did. So he's a great doctor. I love that doctor.
That's amazing.
He's never been in recovery here. He's not an addict, but he specifically hired a lady that works for him very closely with him who is a recovering addict. So it's nice
Oh.
as that in his practice. But yeah, he's great.
Remind me, what state do you live in?
Maryland.
Maryland. Oh, how awesome. So I might have to learn more about that doctor, off the record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, you're probably not too far from me. Well, actually, I don't know what part of Maryland you are, but I know that people that live in my area just hop on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and then they're in Maryland next thing I know. Something like that. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, yeah, babe.
Okay.
Like,
From Virginia Beach
oh, okay.
to.
That far from me. No, I've been there. I think it would take like 3 hours. I think it's from where I'm at, maybe three. I
Oh, wow. I
think
didn't realize you were so close to me. Okay, cool. Well, the bridge is a whole different story. So I've only been over it twice, and people had to drive me over.
it's scary
So
Cycle too. I'll tell you that. That's scary on a motorcycle.
Oh, heck no. No, that's right. So Harleys and horses or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna jump to that real quick. What's all that about?
What do you mean?
Is that on your profile?
Yeah,
Harleys and horses? What does it mean?
just
So you
that I enjoy riding Harleys, and I don't. I mean, I ride on the back. I don't drive them, but I enjoy
okay.
Harleys and I enjoy horses.
And so would you attribute any of your recovery to what you do with horses?
So I
Tell us about your love of horses so
I
that other people can know about it.
I started riding when I was real young. I met a friend when we moved to the neighborhood that I grew up in, or that I can remember that I grew up in. She had horses, and I was like, "Oh my God, I love it! I love it!" So my stepdad is the one that actually got two horses to help me learn to ride, and my friend and her dad and her family taught me a lot more than he did. But once I reached like 11 or 12, I think it was, is when I started training and showing, and then I got and I say he's my horse because the other horses weren't technically mine. They were just kind of given to us to take care of until this lady found a place to take them. So when she was ready, she came and took them back. So, but my horse I got when I was 14, 13 or 14, and I showed him for a while. Once my trainer at the time, she stopped training, and I moved my horse to a different farm, retired him. But at the time, that's when I started kind of dabbling in other shit. I was more interested in partying with my friends than doing much with riding, so I didn't get back into training. And then when I lost my horse or had to have him put down, I just stopped, and I went off the deep end. Um, I tried to get back into riding not that long ago, like a few years ago. I had a friend that reached out that needed a horse ridden because she was pregnant. So I started riding him, and then she sold him, and it was like, and I just never really found the time to do my passion with horses while still trying to stay at home with my son. And I didn't have a vehicle at the time, and just, it was a lot. So, and I fell in a depressive funk too, I think. Like, I kind of lost who I was and being a mom, that I'd really just focus more on taking care of everybody else and not really taking care of myself. So I decided recently, actually, I was like, you know what? I'm doing something for me. And I put an ad out on Facebook looking for work. And I actually found the place that I work for. She reached out to me, and went over, met with her, met all the horses and everything, and came out and did a little like a ride with her and some people, and came back and started training with her. And I just fell in love with the place. I love this place. I'm so freaking I mean, so happy. We just got two rescue horses last week that she rescued from the kill pen. And most of all those horses are rejects that were going to end up at a slaughterhouse. And she's the one that saved them all. So I take care of 22 horses now, 21 horses, five cats. She's got five cats now, too.
Okay, so they're not your cats.
No, I have my seven at home, and then she's got
Oh, because I know you sent me the cat videos because I asked for
those
cat
were,
videos.
yeah.
Oh, okay, those are yours. Okay.
So I love it, and I get to do lessons with her. I'll work off lessons, or I'll do like, little extra jobs here and there to work off lessons. And there's actually a mini like show team league that she's got starting up in the fall, and it's all adults. It's no kids or anything. It's all 21 and over, to try just like a social thing, kind of like, it's not like a big series or show series or anything like that. It's just for fun to get out and socialize with other adults, which I need. I need to get around big people. I work with kids a lot too at her farm because she does camp. So
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
that's just really
it's
awesome.
fun. Yeah. And I'm happy. I talk about it all the time with my dad. I'm like, you would never believe what these horses did to me today.
Yeah, the way you light up when you talk about the horses. So, does your significant other have a Harley?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I wanted to ask you, is there anything you want to touch on while I'm trying to remember something? that I wanted to ask you about?
That I can think of. I have ADHD, so my brain goes all over the place, so sometimes I can't zone in on one thing.
Oh, well, you're doing great. I didn't notice anything. Thank you for sharing and thank you for being so candid. I wanted to ask you, so you've been clean ever since your son.
Hmm.
So, um, if you could give, oh, I know, I remember what it was. If you could give anybody out there that's watching now or watches this in the future, like just any words of wisdom or something you wish you could have told your younger self, or just if you could just tell anybody one thing right now regarding recovery, what would that be? Or it doesn't, I mean, you can always change your mind later, but just give me some words of wisdom that you want to share with somebody right now that's watching this.
Words of wisdom. I don't know. You know,
Okay.
I had seen somebody earlier on a page that I follow on Facebook who just relapsed, and she was looking for the same thing, and she was like, "Please don't, don't berate me." But if you're new to recovery, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. And there's resources everywhere. But if you're relapsing and you're trying to find that again, you know what to do, and it's not going to get any better until you do the damn thing and get clean. Like I told you before, there's no part-time addict. In my opinion, there's no part-time addict. But and you can reach out to others. I just think there's so many resources now, at a lot more than there was when I was trying to get clean back in like the earlier 2000s. There was like one doctor in my area um, that did recovery stuff and prescribed medication for it. But now there's just so many. I think we touched on the harm reduction. They provide a ton of resources. But yeah, just do the damn thing, get clean. It's worth it.
And there was one thing, it is worth it. So if you're out there and you're struggling right now and you're not sure if you want recovery or you do, you're just kind of curious about it, it's worth it. But I will tell you one thing you have to do is work harder at your recovery than you did at your addiction. Let me tell you, we worked pretty hard at our addiction, okay? It was a full-time job for me.
Yeah, right, right, right. And that's my doctor always says that he's like, if you put half of the same amount of energy that you put into getting your money and getting your drug to regular, like, sober life, could you imagine the things that you can do? So,
And you know, that's actually true. And I do tend to think and say, which it doesn't come up a lot, but I will say, not really literally to my clients, but
right,
to people like you got to work harder at your recovery. But it's actually true what you just said. Hey, if you just work half as hard at it, because you want to get in people's minds, because we work so hard to keep up our addiction that yes, I mean you're actually right. Your doctor's right. If we just work half as hard, but I mean I probably wouldn't tell somebody that because then
right.
they might think I don't got to work too hard. But you do. I mean, but that's actually true what you said. But the bottom line is you have to work hard at your recovery, and it's not just I'm not going to use and now I'm healed. We have to do that work too that we talked about.
Is what's the underlying issue, because most of us do have that underlying issue that's causing us to go to that drug to numb those the feelings of whatever. um I'm going to say one other thing that's, I hope it doesn't sound insensitive, but I think it takes a lot more courage to get clean than it does to stay in active addiction.
That's
In that cycle,
I agree.
easy piece. I mean, it's hard work, but staying in that is easy. That's the easy way out. And it's not rewarding. It's not rewarding anywhere at all. Anywhere down the road, it's not rewarding. I have teeth that are missing. Like, I'm so embarrassed about my teeth. All that, it's just, the weight loss. And then as a woman, I dealt with worry that I was going to be infertile, because I didn't have periods for like 2 years. Just all kinds of stuff. Like, it's just, there's no reward in addiction.
And you're right. It is easier to, I agree totally with what you said, but it is easier to, when you're in that withdrawal, okay, let me just get one more time just to get out of this pain. Withdrawal, let me tell you guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, withdrawal is probably the worst thing you can ever go through in your entire life, okay? one of the worst things. To me, it's the worst thing you could ever
It is.
go through. So you don't want to go through that. And, okay, just if you could just really get through the first 3 days,
Mhm.
then the worst of it is over. So guys, if you're struggling with this, just know that if you can get through those first 3 days, now it's not rainbows and unicorns after that, but if you
But
can
it,
get through those 3 days, that's when we all get tripped up, is in
yeah,
those first 3 days.
yeah.
So I will tell you that Samantha and I struggle with different drugs of choice, but it's still the same.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And there is hope. And that was one thing I was going to say, is you did say this before, and I remembered it, and because I share the same philosophy, there's always hope. And I go one step further. I say, as long as you're breathing, there's hope. So it doesn't matter how old or young you are. And I actually did have this conversation with a young guy, 25 maybe, recently, and he was just thinking, he was just too old to get started with anything. And I'm like, I'm double your age, okay? Although I cleaned up my life 10 years ago, you're never too old.
No, that's what my dad said. You're never too old to do anything.
So yeah, 25. Oh my gosh, like, dude, you got your whole life ahead of you.
Right.
I wish I had struggled. In hindsight, I did struggle in life, period, but I wish I had struggled with my addiction in my 20s and got it over with and out of the way.
Right.
But, I decided to have babies and go to college and become a nurse and had it all together
Right.
to a certain degree. I want to just turn on comments. There's only a few people in here right now, but I just want to, before I let you go, and thank you. This has just been so. I was hoping we would go for an hour, and
Looks
I didn't tell you
like
that, but so, but yes, and so I just want to open it up real quick. If there's anybody in here that has any questions for Samantha related to addiction recovery, we're going to wrap this up, and I just want to give it a second. Thank you so much to Samantha. And I actually found it's an interesting story how I found her on TikTok. TikTok is just my main love, but I'm taking a break from it right now because I'm just kind of burnt out.
Yeah.
But I took off my birthday, but I'm just kind of burnt out with it because TikTok is like a way of life for me and it's a business for me. But she did comment, Samantha commented on one of my posts just in general, and asking about my thoughts on an addiction recovery related question, and from there it just kind of took off because
Yay.
I don't respond. I mean, I try to respond to every comment, but when it's related to addiction recovery, you're probably going to get a video reply out of me because that's my forte, that's my passion, or mental health. And it just kind of took off from there.
Perfect.
So let me see. All right. I don't see any questions coming in. And again, this was really just our first pilot session of doing this little chat. I think I'm going to really enjoy Instagram Live for this setup much better than TikTok.
Yeah, I like it a lot better. I mean, I'm getting closer to 1,000, but I like this. It just seems a little more laid back.
We got to get you there. And would you be open to maybe us kind of making something out of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once a week or something? Because I want to let you know also I have my riff. Now, I know I told you about the riff, but I forgot to include it in my link. But there's really nobody in here. But what I was thinking we could do is we can, on riff, it's like Zoom. We can go in there and chit chat 24 hours a day. You could be in there without me. We can get your recovery buddies in there. We can have conversations, and then we can open up to more and more people. I created it about a month ago because I knew I was manifesting something. But I was thinking maybe like next week we could maybe do this again. Whenever we'll talk about it, but we can keep the comments on and make a series of it. Of course, I would like to start interviewing different people and whatnot. But just as you're able to, I do like the idea of doing something on Wednesdays. But again, it's just, if you want to join me, I think that would be great, but we can start like opening, we'll play around with it, but I just wanted to see like if that was something you might be interested in. Absolutely. And I just didn't want any distractions today because, I'm trying to get going with this and fill it out and see what it's like.
Right.
But I love the setup.
It works.
And the audio is good. I can hear you in my ears great. And I think this video will be saved, and so there's no screen recording.
Yeah.
And then maybe what I'm even considering, I almost thought about tonight, but again, I didn't want to be distracted, maybe like if we do this again next week or something, it could be more of a discussion, rather than just keep putting you on the spot.
Absolutely.
But maybe we could talk about that week's topic or something. But then maybe I will set a live TikTok on my tablet like I did last week, with it telling people you can go to Instagram and watch this actual live. So it's not like I'm trying to get us in there.
Right.
We've already got this, but hey, if y'all want to watch this, come on over to Instagram and watch us.
Right.
Because I'm just I love this setup better. Even if you said you had 1,000 followers, I just like this better.
Yeah, I like it better because it's the both of us. And isn't TikTok
Yeah.
one person's little, or is it? Am I thinking of the
No,
wrong?
we're both. We're just split screen.
Right.
Is that how yours is?
Yeah. Yep.
And I've noticed when I've watched other people's lives and they have guests on, and you know what? Instagram has been kind of tagging behind TikTok, but they got this part right.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think TikTok needs to take some lessons from here. All right, well, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.